the one, the only, Ben Good morning, welcome to Shiva YouTube Table Enabled as we start one of the more famous simanim in Orach Chaim, in Hilchos Shabbos, Siman Reish and Gimel, Hilchos Shehiyah v'Chazara. People spend extensive amounts of time learning Shehiyah v'Chazara. They can spend months or even a whole year, people learning who will learn halacha, learn Siman Reish and Gimel. But I will give it to you in approximately 20 minutes in one shiur. That's why it's good to stick with me, because 20 minutes versus a whole year. I mean, come on, people's time is precious. Aleph, Kira Shahaya Asuya Kidera Shoftin Alpia Kidera Lamala. There's three types of stoves or oven tops we're going to talk about. Right? There's an oven top which has more than one stove top. And then there's one that has exactly one stove top. Some burners, right? You could have a burner which is, not attached to a stove, which has a place for two or place for one. Kirashi Asuya Kidera Shoftin Alpia Kidera Lamala. Two or more, like the common stovetop has four burners or two burners. It doesn't make a difference. If the way you light the fire, the fire comes from the waste of olives or branches. Now, in layman's terms, in practical terms, it means you're using something natural gas, or using coals or something like that. Right, so that's you can't put a certain type of food, a tavshil, that's going to cook Vod Yom before Shabbos. Also allowed to keep it on Shabbos, to let it cook on Shabbos. Unless it's completely cooked. And even if it's completely cooked, it has to be that if it would cook more, it would make it worse. Right? Because if it cooks better, right, you might stir the pot on Shabbos. That's the problem. You might stir the pot on Shabbos, and you're not going to violate cooking this mvushal called sarko, but you will violate, you might actually you shut off the fire, or turn the fire up, which is havara. To increase the fire is havara. I don't think the malacha is bishul, it's havara. Or if the food in the pot is raw, shalom is bashal klal. Right? If you put basically a raw piece of meat into the pot before Shabbos, you're going to forget about it. And you let it cook overnight for your chalent, and by tomorrow morning be ready. You're not going to raise the fire or lower the fire. Let's say it's cooked a little bit. Or it's completely cooked, but you might want to cook it more and it'll taste better. Yichada literally means to stoke the coals, but in practical terms it means to raise the fire. You can't keep it on elim pen garaf. There is a way that you could do that. Garaf means to take out the coals. Either you cover it or you remove the coals. Some people have the minhag, right? That's what people put a blech over, so you can't to cover the fire. That's called covering the fire. Or there's a different way of doing it, is basically to take out all the coals would be, I don't know in practical terms, basically to cover the knobs. So you can cover the knobs or you can cover the actual fire. So in order to prevent you, to give you a reminder, that's what we're going to talk about, a reminder. That's why it's important. You should have reminders that you shouldn't go ahead and raise the fire. Even if the pot was, let's say, not fully cooked, it was in the middle of cooking, but you put one piece of meat that was raw, because you have one piece of meat, you want to eat the whole pot, and one piece of meat is not going to cook till tomorrow, you're going to forget about it. Even if it's not, you didn't cover the fire or cover the handles. You could put a pot next to it. Let's say you have one burner on, you could put it in the burner next to it. And if the fire was lit, bekasha literally means straw or stubble. In practical terms, I think it means electricity. You have electric burners. Electric burners, you don't have to cover electric burners because it's not recognizable, the fire. You don't see the fire. So therefore there's no chash, there's no worries that you're going to raise the fire or lower the fire. Let's say you have two stovetops and you have a wall of earthenware between them. One of them is covered and one of them is not. You're allowed to keep a pot on the group of ktuma. Again, even if it's in the middle of cooking. Even if it's getting heat from what's next to it, because you're principally focused on the pot that you're cooking, and it's group of ktuma. The fire is covered. We're not worried you're going to raise the fire. An oven. Now, an oven we're talking about inside the oven, right? An oven is different than a stovetop. Even if it's use electric heat to heat it up, which most ovens are. Also, you can't even put it outside next to it. Even if the knobs to the oven are closed off, or the heat is covered, I don't know, you have some tin foil inside the oven, so you can't see the heating elements, the burning in the back. Nonetheless, you can't put something next to it. As long as the heat coming out from the side of the oven is yad toledispo, which is about 150 degrees Fahrenheit, which basically, if you would take your hand would draw back, so it's very hot. But certainly can't put in it or on top of it. The kupach is a third type of thing. It's talking about one burner by itself. Sometimes you have an electric burner by itself. Or it's talking about a stovetop where you just lit one of the burners. If you lit it with kashugo electrically, so that's a kira, which is mutter. If you lit it with gefet of eitzim, with natural heat, natural gas, or coals, dino kataner, then it's like a taner and it's aser. This is important. Allah, the Ramah says that our ovens, even inside our ovens, they're like a kira, and therefore if it's used, the heat is electric, it's okay. Let's say you forgot, and you did it in Isser. You left it, let's say, on a kira, and the fire wasn't covered, and it was natural gas, right? It has to be natural gas, and it has to be the knobs weren't covered, and the fire wasn't covered. You have to have three things: natural gas, not covered, three things: natural gas, not covered, and also that it's in the middle of cooking. It's not in this bashal kol tzarko. Let's say you violated that. If it was completely cooked, even though we said it really has to be, right? If it can be cooked more, it can be fully cooked, but it'll taste better if you cook it more. That's okay, because you did it b'shogeg, we allow you to eat the food. Even with if it's in the middle of cooking, right, where there's more of a concern, you might raise the fire. Also, al motei Shabbos, then it's also motei Shabbos, because even though it's b'shogeg, right, since you did something wrong, we penalize you. Let's say you did it on purpose. For some reason, you didn't care about halacha, and then now we see you did tshuva, he cares about it. Asr b'shnei, and you're asr in both cases. Whether it's mistam v'yafalo or even if it's mistam v'yafalo, you have to wait till Moshe Shabbos. There's an additional penalty. You have to wait the time it takes to cook, which is not so long. I don't know, 10, 15 minutes after Shabbos. That's another part of the penalty. We're going to learn about chazara, the shehiyah, leaving the pot on before Shabbos. Chazara is to return it. You take off the fire on Shabbos to put it back on the fire on Shabbos. If a non-Jew puts it back, that's like you did it by forgetting. Yisrael did it. Even though it wasn't done under your will, if a Jew did it, then we penalize you more. Again, it has to be where the additional cooking is good for it. But if additional cooking is bad for it, this bashal called tzarko, and additional cooking is bad for it, mutter. Even if you did it on purpose, it's okay because you didn't benefit, again, because it was natural gas, or it was covered, or it's not helping the cooking, so there's nothing wrong over here. A different opinion says Michael ben Drusai is basically it's called cooking. Now the Gemara said, the Rashi says ben Drusai was a person who was a thief and he used to eat his meat very quickly, didn't cook it, ate it raw. I think Michael ben Drusai is the limit on cooking, because that's what really good cooking is. Good cooking is to cook your steak medium rare. That's what Michael ben Drusai is, medium rare. That's what cooking is, right? And actually, Bechel Ben Yishai is cooking it a little too much. To cook it, I think it's half cooked. Half cooked would be medium, but if it's 1/3 cooked, there's machlokes the Rambam and the Rashi. One person says half cooked, one person says third cooked. I believe we're making we should be das mekilin again cooked atera adif. So therefore, half cooked medium is considered cooking, but medium rare is allowed on Shabbos. You know it's allowed. You're allowed to cook a steak on Shabbos as long as you cook it medium rare. People don't know this. How could it be that Shabbos? Then you're supposed to have barburim and tanugim, all the best thing, and you can't cook a steak. The answer is you could cook a steak, as long, right? That's like an electric grill top, right? On a George Foreman, you want to cook an electric stove outside. You know, a gas grill is again is like it's like gefen ve'etzim. But if you have an electric grill, you can cook it as long as it's less than Michael. This is important. I'll talk about Bishul. But technically, I think you can cook a steak as long as it's medium rare. That's the way to eat it. Or medium is okay, or rare. Medium is a problem. Perish. Shem Adam, the Ramah explains, Shaya Ochal Macholo Shalon Itzbakal. He was a person who didn't eat it fully cooked. Or it's fully cooked, and it's going to get better if you cook it more. You can keep it al gabi kira. She is mutter as long as it's mashal called sarko. This mashal Michael Ben Drasai. Once it's cooked, because there's not so much incentive to cook it more. As long as it's edible, to cook it more, we're not worried you're gonna raise the flames. Hago afilu al gabi toner. Even on an oven, afilu husam kefes or eitzim. Even if it's natural gas or coal, so afilu in a group of tuma. Even if it's not covered. The whole halacha about shehiyah is only where it started cooking. You just put it in. It started to cook. It's cooked a little. It's not complete raw, but it started to cook for a couple of minutes. It's not edible yet. It's not rare. It's not medium rare. Same thing if you took a pot off the stove on Shabbos. You want to put it back on Shabbos. Again, it's only, all these halachas apply. Shia Chazar only apply when it's in this phase over here. This phase where it hasn't reached Michael Ben Drusai. It hasn't reached medium cooked. And you want to cook it, right? You're going to raise the flame so you can get it to medium rare. It's not even, it's rare. Maybe it's rare. And the question is, I might raise the flames. I want it to get medium rare. That's the case, right? If it's either not cooked, there's rare and there's medium rare. So only that's what this daya holds. This is the opinion Rashi and the Reed. That if it's rare, then you're going to raise the flames to make it. But if it's already medium cooked, no one's going to raise the flames. No one wants a well done steak. Feeling fine. Same thing about returning it. The same idea. They return it on Shabbos again because when you return on Shabbos, you'll forget that that you're not allowed to raise the fire, and you'll raise the fire. If you forgot, right, and you let it, in this case, according to this posik where it's aser, again, with the Evid, we would say if you did it b'shogeg or b'mezid, you would not be allowed to benefit from it. Minhag, this is an important halacha. The Ramah says the real halacha, mikar adin, shehiyah and chazara really don't apply because it only applies if it's in a state of rare and it's not medium rare yet. Because once it's not medium yet, it's between rare and medium because then you want to raise the fire to get it to medium rare or somewhere between medium rare and medium. But otherwise, it doesn't apply because no one likes whether it's fully cooked or it'll taste a little better. That's not substantial enough to warrant a person to forget and to raise the fire. This is only talking about where it's not touching the coals. Again, when there's an isser, separate isser of insulation on Shabbos, if it's insulated by the coals, you can't do that. You can't have hatmana b'davar shemos of hevel. Even if it started before Shabbos, coals add heat. So again, when something's insulated, you might come and cook and raise the fire again, which is a separate problem with hatmana. Haga, there must be yesham with afilim magdero medas agabe aish mamish. Even on the fire, the coals ma'ashim magula lamala. This is the opinion we accept. It has to be completely encased. Just having coals on the side of it does not make hatmana. Again, we'll make Orach is harmless. The not con ksas kodem Shabbos min aish. Unless you make sure that it's you're able to take it from the fire and you don't have to move the coals from the top. If you didn't take it off, technically the best thing to do is have a non-Jewish. Here's a Tahal Muksa, you're moving coals on Shabbos. Then a non-Jew could, then a Jew, if there's no non-Jew, a Jew could remove it. You shouldn't move the coals. Again, you should try that the coals shouldn't move. If they do move, again, it's mutter, and I think it's really mutter because it's tiltul min atzad. You're taking the pot, you're not taking the actual coals themselves. Akira, again, which is stovetop, which is an electric grill. You know, you cover the knobs, you cover the dials. You took the pot on it, off of it on Shabbos. I feel it Shabbos. You're allowed to put it back. This is Toma Chazara, the seconding. Calls man shehi rotachas, as long as it's still hot. Because again, the idea of Chazara, I'll explain this more in Ian Talinon, is that the Chazara and shehi are both asur because you're going to forget that it's Shabbos. You're going to raise the flame. But if it's still very hot, you're going to realize it was on the stove. I'm not going to raise the flame. Haga the oda biyad, the Ramah that it also should be in your hand still. Blowing nicha can't be on the ground. Haga v'daita lahachzira. It also has to be that you intend when you took it off to put it back. With afka al gaba, you can only put it back on top of the stove. Aval tocha aser, putting it inside the oven is aser. V'tana aser lahachzira afilu gar v'kadam. If you took it out of the oven, even if it's gar v'kadam, you can't put it back. If you have a single burner and it's being run by natural gas, then it's a problem also. But again, we hold that our tanurim, our ovens, since they're heated by electricity, they're not that hot. They're like a kira. It has to be, when you do chazar, it has to be also completely cooked. You can even put it to a different stove. Again, because you'll remember that Shabbos you won't raise the fire. If it wasn't cooked entirely, so then, right, we're afraid. And I would say it's the same machlokas in Siman Aleph, Sif Aleph. Again, we hold like the second opinion that it's not talking about if it's in Spashal Kol Tzarka, it doesn't mean in Spashal Kol Tzarka. It means that it's right before Michael Ben Drusai, right? It's between rare and medium. In that case, you might play around with it to make it the perfect medium rare. But if it's already Michael Ben Drusai, there's no problem with Chazar anymore. Even if you put it on the ground, even if you forgot about it for 10 hours, it doesn't make a difference. As long as it was on the stove at one point, then it's okay. Some say there's only Asr Chazara. If you took it before Shabbos, and now you want to put it back after Shabbos. Chazara is mutter if you took it out of the pot of the stove on Shabbos. There's another header by Chazara. Even it is a case where there's a chash you might, right, between rare and medium, where you might come raise the fire. If you took it out on Shabbos, right, that's not a problem. That's not Chazara, because you'll remember. You won't raise the fire. With Tov L'Achmir, it's a nice thing to be Machmir. Then you don't have to be Machmir about this. See, everyone is worried about Shia and Chazara. All these chumras. You open the Art Scroll book that tells you in English or Hilchos Shabbos. I remember going through these. It racks your brain to find that you have to have 5 different things that has to be in your hand. But the basic poskim, you don't need any of these things. It only applies to very limited circumstance. Very limited circumstance. It doesn't really apply to us nowadays anyway. You can basically leave anything on the fire and basically put everything back according to Mikra Adin. If it became completely cold, then everyone agrees it's also to put it back, because then you'll raise the fire. You want to heat it up. You don't want to eat cold food. So if you took out food from the oven on Shabbos, you can't insulate it with pillows and blankets. That's hatmana. Let's say right before Chashecha, right before Shabbos, you took it out, and if it would be, right, by the time it becomes cold, you wouldn't have time to reheat it before Shabbos. That's like, right, we're a machmir more if you put it in the oven. If you took it out before Shabbos, you want to put it back on Shabbos, So therefore, that would be considered pouring before Shabbos. The guideline is I wouldn't be having a chance to reheat it before Shabbos. Some people say this is okay. Then minhag lahakil, again the minhag is mekel in this case. If it's close enough to Shabbos, it's considered like on Shabbos you took it out. It's good, but food is important on Shabbos. Don't be lachmir, in my opinion. It's only talking about on a stovetop of all this smoke to put it next to the oven. I feel even like you have one burner on to put it next to it on the where the other burner is not on. Even if it's a place where it'll be very hot, I feel some of the chashecha. Even again, some of the chashecha, you took it out and you want to put it back. Again, a real toner, which we don't have nowadays, then you can't even put it next to it. But it's only a place where it's yatzal, which is something which cooks. Bishul, it has to be hot enough to cook it. This is not relevant. So at a tanur, all our ovens and kiros are considered kiros, not tanurim. Gimel. He sees that his pot of food is burning. If he already pen yachdiach, he doesn't want it to burn. He's challenged to burn anymore. You could take, basically a silver foil pan and put it on underneath, so it won't be so hot. It's not considered chazara. We technically shouldn't put it on the ground. It should be hot. Again, the Ramas of the Korn is bar shenag lahaka. Often it's not like a karka. Maker didn't, even if you put it on the ground and you forgot about it for a long time, unless it was very cold. If it's very cold, then it's a problem with chazara, and I'll explain why you need to lean on Dalit. Yesh limchos b'yad nogim lahafim bod yom kumkum shal mayim chamim v'nostin ostam l'toch hakir b'Shabbos kishatavshim l'stamik. Some people say it's bad to insulate water. Now, putting a water insulation before Shabbos is not a problem because it's not going to add. They put it in a thermos. That's not most of hevel. It doesn't add, just keeps the heat. But that water might have cooled down, and it's not yatzaledis. When you put it in a pot, which is yatzaledis, you're cooking the water. That's why people should be careful about to make sure the water is yatzaledis. Hey, so you have a pot of cholent. A lot of people do this. They want to heat up a different food. You can put it on top of the cholent pot. You can go pondish, it's deli roll, lechaman, to heat it up, even though it's cold. Normally, to put something cold or to put something new on the stove, even if it's not cold, then people don't remember, they'll raise the fire. But to put it on top, that's not derech bishul, you're not going to raise the fire. You'll have a hecker, you'll remember. Again, to insulate something, put it under clothes, to completely cover it, that's aser. The same law applies. You can't put it on a stove top. Even if the dials are covered, the knobs are covered, you can't put something new. Again, if it's cold or it's new, you can't put it on. If you cooked it on Erev Shabbos, since you baked it before Shabbos, as long as you cooked it in that oven beforehand, again, you're not worried to put it back on Shabbos. Put something completely new on Shabbos, that's a problem, unless you put it on top of the cholent. Make some sort of hecker for yourself. It also has to be, it wasn't completely cooled down. If it's completely cooled down, then it's a problem. I'll explain why you need to leon. Some people are machmir. If it's very hot in the oven, then it's aser. Again, just like you can't do it, you can't do a non-Jew to do it. Because it's all gzeira, it's part of a gzeira. There's a difference between a shvus and a gzeira. Gzeira is something you might come to do malacha d'oraisa. So even though a shvus, you can say to a non-Jew, shvus is basically to protect the sanctity of Shabbos. Shabbos is a day of rest. Don't do certain things which will, even though it's midoraisa, it's not considered a breach of resting, but midorabanan, it's considered a little work. The Rabbanan said don't do that. But if it's a gzeira, you might do actual malacha on Shabbos, like avara. That did not allow any Yehudi is like a Jew. And here it's a concern whether you're going to raise the fire. And if it cooled down, you can't let him do this. Because again, when it's cold or to put something new, those are the problem. You also can't if you violated this on purpose, right? You can't eat it, even if it cools down. If it's still a little bit hot, that's not a problem. Again, as long as it's in the oven, even before Shabbos, that's okay. Chazar is mutar. Hey, nogim she'inam Yehudim motziin akderos min hatanurim shematzminim behem u'moshin l'san ha'isal taner be'es ha'chorev ha'olav. They take it out of the oven and they put it next to the oven, a place where it's a little bit hot because it's still hot. Mevayeres ha'shivcha achkach hataner ahua l'idei zeh akderos closer min ha'tarachim. And the non-Jew lights up this place next to the oven to keep it warm because it's still a little warm. And then it goes ahead and reheats. I think Yisrael also Yisrael can't do this because Yisrael can't light a fire on Shabbos. If the pots are still hot, if you can put it right outside. They used to have a little pocket next to the oven, which was next to it, which was also could be heated up. It's an Indian of smicha, putting next to an oven. All our ovens are like kiros. They're like stovetops that are heated, especially if it's heated by electrically. Again, putting it next to it, even if it's heated by natural gas, smicha is okay. Where mekel, even if you put it on the karka and you left it for a long time, as long as it's not completely cold, it's a little warm, lukewarm is okay. Again, to put it next to an oven, or to put it on, smicha means near the wall of the oven, or to put it on a burner, which is not on, next to a burner which is on. That's smicha also. Even if the knobs are not covered. Again, there's many reasons to be mekel. If the dials are covered, or there's a blech on top of it, for sure it's okay. If it's heated electrically, even if there's no coverings in the dials, that's okay. And certainly smicha is okay, even if you have those two things. It's natural gas, and the dials are not covered. Smicha, putting on a burner next to it, that's okay also. So you have a lot of heterim over here for both Shia and Chazara. I don't know if people are so machmer about this. From the Ramah, it's clear there's makom mekel. I think you should throw out all these art scroll books that help Shabbos. They take like 10 chapters to write out Shia and Chazara, how you have to be machmer. The reason is because the poskim are afraid to be matir, because whenever the Ramah says tov lahachmir, they accept that as lahalacha, like it's bonding, like you violated malacha d'oraisa on Shabbos. It's a shame that by Yisurim d'Rabbanan, which these are gzeros at the most, they're not Yisurim d'oraisa, we're so worried about this, and people, the rabbis, official rabbis, are afraid to write a kula that are read by the masses, not Yerei Shamayim. People, regular masses of Jews, they put so many chumras on people. It's so not applicable, these halachas nowadays. We can make almost everything. The only time you have to be machmer is 3 cases. Number 1, if it's completely cool, to take something new, right, that was never on the pot before, and put it on Shabbos, on the fire, that's a problem. Or to put something which is cooled down, was on the fire but cooled down. Or if it's considered in this middle process where it's between rare and medium cooked, then it's a problem to leave it on the stove before Shabbos. But again, in any of these cases, these 3 cases, you have ways out. If the dials are covered, there's a black mutter, all 3 cases. If it's electric, if it's kasher gov electric, it's mutter also in all 3 cases. So it's really hard to violate Hilchos Shia and Chazara. That's what I like to leave off with. Stay tuned for Ian Tolino, where I explain the times where it's usher and why it should be usher more than other cases. Ian Tolino coming up next.